Hello everyone, this is Professor Hu. This lecture is introducing Python programming, and there will have three parts. The first part is introducing how to prepare for Python programming. The second part is about Python basics, and the third part will be Python application. Now let's start the first part, preparing for Python programming. In this part, we'll see why we choose Python as the first programming language. And then I will show you how to install Python tools, and then how to work with Python in command line and in the integrated development environment Visual Studio Code. Why we choose Python? We need to know what is Python and why Python has been so popular today. What is Python? Python is an integrated programming language created by Guido van Rossum in 1991, and it has become one of the most powerful and popular general programming language today. Why has Python become so popular? Because Python is free and open source. Python is powerful and can be used for web development, software development, system scripting, and data science. Python works on almost all platforms, including Windows, Mac, Linux, Raspberry Pi, etc. Python syntax is simple and is similar to that of English language. Python is interpreted language, but it can be also treated as a compiled language. Generally, interpreted language is good for interaction between the program and the user, but compiled programs run faster than interpreted program. However, today, the difference is not so obvious with the improved technology. That means interpreted languages run faster and faster now. And Python supports procedural programming in both functional and object-oriented ways. Python syntax style is closer to that of English than other general programming languages such as C, C++, C#, Java, etc. To summarize, Python is one of the best choices to learn as the first programming language for its power, popularity, and easiness. Now I will show you how to prepare Python programming environment. I will show you the tools for Python programming, show you how to install the tools, and practice using Python programming language. Generally, programming uses a plain text editor to write program source code, a compiler or an interpreter to convert the program source code into computer machine code, then a tester or debugger to help find errors. The errors are called bugs in your program. A plain text editor is a pure text editor, which will not create any hidden or formatting characters in your source code. Microsoft Word is not a plain text editor because it always creates hidden characters in your document. In Windows, Notepad is a plain text editor. In macOS, TextEdit is plain text editor. Can be used as a plain text editor for programming source code. And in Linux, VI and VIM are plain text editors. Every programming language has its specific interpreter or compiler. Once you download the language, you get its interpreter or compiler. Python is an interpreted language because it provides an interpreter to convert Python source code into computer machine code. The Python interpreter file is python.exe. You may run it in the command line. Most programming languages provide testing and debugging functions in their interpreter or compilers, so you don't have to have a separate tester or debugger. Though you may do programming using the standalone tools, editor, interpreter, and debugger, it is much more convenient to use an integrated development environment (IDE) tool that integrates all the tools in one place. There are many IDE tools available. I recommend Microsoft Visual Studio Code. This figure is Microsoft Visual Studio Code. Besides integrating editor, interpreter, and debugger, Visual Studio Code has many extra functions to help you do programming. For example, it has a file explorer to help you organize your project files. It allows you to install many extensions such as database management tools, GitHub source control tools, variable terminals, etc. You can also use Visual Studio Code to do programming with many other languages such as C, C++, C#, Java, PHP, JavaScript, and so on. So Visual Studio Code is universal. Besides, it is not only free but also open source. Therefore, it has gained more and more popularity since its release. Now let me show you how to install Python and install Visual Studio Code. To install Python, first you need to check if you have Python already installed on your computer. You can use command line like Python --version or py --version command. To check if you have already installed Python on your computer. You will see the Python version. If it's not installed, you will see the message. Then you need to install Python. To install Python, you need to go to the URL www.python.org. move your mouse to Downloads menu, then select your platform, then a Python version, and then click on a link of your choice to download the language installation file. It better select the recommended version, and then go to the folder where the file was downloaded. Double-click on the file to install it. If you have installed Python before, you may choose Repair or Uninstall. In the installation procedure, it better check all options, then install it. Once you installed Python, you can work with Python interpreter in command prompt window. But let me show you how to install Microsoft Visual Studio Code. The first step is to go to the website visualstudiocode.microsoft.com/download and move down to find Visual Studio Code. Move the mouse onto the button, select the version of your operating system and click. The file should be downloaded automatically. And then go to the folder where the file was downloaded, double-click it to install. Now let's take a look at the layout of Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio Code comes with a simple and intuitive layout that maximizes the space provided for the editor while leaving ample room to browse and access the full context of your folder or project. The user interface is divided into 5 areas. One is the editor. That is the main area to edit your files. You can open as many editors as you like, side by side, vertically or horizontally. And there is a sidebar that contains different views, like the Explorer, to assist you while working on your project. And there is a status bar, generally on the bottom, shows information about the open project and the files you are editing. And there is an activity bar that is located on the far left-hand side. This lets you switch between views and gives you additional context-specific indicators, like the number of ongoing changes when Git is enabled and something else. And there are panels You can display different panels below the editor region for output or debug information, errors and warnings, or an integrated terminal. The panel can also be moved to the right for more vertical space. Each time you start Visual Studio Code, it opens up in the same state it was when you last closed it. The folder layout and opened files are preserved. More details about Visual Studio Code user interface are at the link at code.visualstudiocode.com/docs/get-started/user-interface. Now let me show you how to use Python interpreter in command line and use Python in Microsoft Visual Studio Code. And in Visual Studio Code, we can use it in both interpreting style and compiling style. First, let's use Python interpreter in command line. We need first select folder for the works. Now we can run Python interpreter by typing Python interpreter command in command line. Now let's practice displaying values, variables, and expressions. Type in number 3, press the enter key, it shows 3, and then type in a string, hello. A string must be enclosed in double quotes. Press enter key, you can see the result. And then enter an expression 2 plus 3. Press enter key. It shows the result. Now let's type in x equal to 3. And then say what is x. It will show the value of x, that is 3. Now let's type in y equal to 5. Press enter key. And then we enter y, it will show its value. that is 5. Now let's type in x plus y, press Enter key. They will show the result x plus y. And we enter x plus 7, you can see the result displayed. Now we type in a equal to a string hi and see what is a. And then type in b equal to a string Peter. See what is b. Now we type in a plus b and see what's the result. It can be a combination of a and b. So from here we can see whatever we typed on the command line of Python interpreter, we can display the values we entered, and we can also enter variables, assign value to variables like x, y, a, b, and we can get the results according to what values we assigned to the variable. So you see, it's really easy to use Python, and these examples just show us that we can interact with the Python interpreter and immediately get the results. For any programming languages, input and output are very important for interaction between the user and the program. In Python, we can use input function for the user to enter something, and use print function to output or display something. Now let's type in input. With a string, which is to remind the user what to input. We see that Python interpreter is waiting for the user input. Suppose we type in the name, press Enter key, and you will see the result the user entered. Now let's type in print with a string, press Enter key, and you see Python display what will be outputted. That is the string in print. So these are very easy and simple input and output using Python interpreter. Now let's practice define a function. We know that function is a module or a block to organize programming code. So it's very important that we should know how to define function, and we will discuss that later in Python programming language. But here, let's see how to define a function simply. Define a function, use a keyword. DEF means define. And then the function name, suppose here we use function name main. Main is the entry point for a programming language to start a program. And suppose we have two parameters for main function, A and B. Press enter. Now Python interpreter automatically indent the function body. The space is very important. Okay. This indicates that the line belongs to the function. Suppose we type in x equal to a plus b, and then type in y equal to a minus b, and then z equal to x multiply y, and then print z. So this is the function body of main function. You see what? We do some calculation, right? Calculate x, y, z, and output z. And then to run the function, just type in the function name and give the values to the parameters a, b. Suppose a is 2, b is 3. Press enter key. Now we can see the result. The result is value z. we displayed from the function. Now let's define another function. Suppose we also define main function. Okay, and inside main function, we can type in comment. Comment is not for the interpreter to use. It's simply something to tell the user what to do. It's for the user to read, to understand the program code. It will not be executed by the interpreter. All right. Suppose the comment is get input from the user. A comment starts with a pound sign. And then type in a statement, Python statement, username equal to input, and the reminder, please enter your name. This is to tell the user to enter the name. Now another comment, output to display. This tells the user that below is to display something. And the Python statement is print hello plus the username. The username is a variable that holds the user's input. And then we can run the main function. Just type in main. Okay, so you can see the result, right? Have you get some hint? Define a function in Python is easy. Just use keyword def, then function name, and then its parameter list. It may not have parameter, so the parameter list will be empty. A comment in Python starts with pound sign. A comment is for the user to understand the code. It's not to be executed by the Python interpreter. The function body have to be indented, and Python interpreter automatically do that. All right, so this is about using Python interpreter. We have seen how to simply display a value, assign value to variable, and display the variable's value. And we see how to display value of expressions, right? And then we show how to input and output using Python, and then how to define functions in Python and run the function. We will use Visual Studio Code. We will first enter the interpreting code in command line, and then we will practice compiling style coding in Visual Studio Code. Similarly, we first display the values, variables, and expressions as we did in Python interpreter in DOS command line. And we do the same thing in the command line window in Visual Studio Code. Now we'll practice input and output. Similarly, use input function and print function. Now let's practice defining functions. We use the same code as we did in Python interpreter in command line. Now, let me say we can create compiling style code in editor in Visual Studio Code. Let's define the same function in editor. create a file. Now let's practice to create a little bit more complex function in editor. You will see that this might be a little bit hard to do in command line interpreter. So we type in editor to create the programming code in a file, and then we execute. And this is actually the compiling style coding. Type your code in your file and then execute it. The internal execution style is different, but look to the user, it's about the same thing. So that's why we say, even though Python is an interpreted language, it also supports compiling style programming. In this example, we created a function called calculating, and this function can be called by other functions. Like here, we call calculating in the main function, and then we execute the main function, and we can get the expected result. In the future, we will discuss in more depth about Python programming, including defining function and call function. All right, to summarize, in this lecture, I went over Python programming language features, how to install Python programming tools, and how to use Python interpreter in command line, and how to use Python in the command line in Visual Studio Code.